Today we're living in a fantasy world where the BMF belt is up for grabs in every single division, and I'm going to go through them all and decide who should really be fighting for the BMF belt and who are the true BMFs in the sport. And thanks for Bert and MMA for posting this idea on his Instagram. I'm taking it and making a video out of it, and hopefully it does really well. And of course, this is my opinion. This is my opinion, so you can maybe leave yours in the comments who you think are the BMFs, but this is what I'm doing. And we'll start off with the lightweights. Obviously, Max Holloway has the BMF belt himself. And I understand your argument if you think Ilya should maybe be in this video, but he's not. You've seen in the thumbnail, this just makes sense. Dan Hooker versus Max Holloway for the BMF belt. He's doing these backyard brawls, that clip of, I love this shit, as he's in the cage bleeding and in a fight. So Dan Hooker's definitely a bad boy, and Max has got it, so I'm not going to be rude and take it from him. But Ilya's a bad boy too, KO'd everyone, saying he's going to knock them out as well. So I understand if you want to put him versus Dan Hooker, or maybe grab someone else like Rebecca or Obara. Do what you want. Do what you want. Maybe leave a comment for me. All right. But yeah, and subscribe too. But yeah, Dan Hooker versus Max Holloway. That is the BMF belt, that title fight that should be happening in lightweight if there was one to go down, which there would be, because Max has got it. And so hopefully this will come up. But Charles Oliveira, I can see that too. But now we'll move on to the heavyweights, because we're starting off in the middle with the lightweights. Now before I do, just picture BMF belt, heavyweight, who instantly sprung to mind? Correct. Justin Tuffer. No. Was it Derrick Lewis? Yeah. I agree. Derrick Lewis should be fighting for the BMF belt if there was to be one up at heavyweight. And now you think, who should he verse though? Now, there's a lot of fat people. Gaziev, that could be funny. Taliesin was a cool guy, but I'm going through and who's really calling people out, wants to fight, all of the top 10, wants John, and come on, rightfully so. Tom Aspinall is a bad motherfucker, and he should fight Derrick Lewis if there was to be a BMF title fight in their weight class. Wouldn't you agree? I think I've got that one right. Tom Aspinall versus Derrick Lewis. They're two bad boys. You got to put the knockout king Derrick Lewis in there, because he's a fun guy and he's a bad boy too. But Tom Aspinall, come on. I don't know if there's anyone else deservedly so in that division that deserves it more than him if there was. But we'll go on to light heavyweight, and you've seen this one in the thumbnail. This just makes sense, and this would be on everyone's tongue if they were to make a BMF belt in the light heavyweight division, and that is of course Yuri Prohaska. Now maybe he's a bit of a nerd these days in the books, but kind of that's cool as well, so I'm not taking that away from him. Alex Pereira could maybe be on your mind. There's a couple bad boys up at light heavyweight, but you've seen in the thumbnail, this guy's just so cool. And I think he's a bad motherfucker as well. Zhang Ming Yang, how could you not throw him in there? Yuri versus Zhang, isn't that cool? Reyes is cool, but he's a bit nice. And I'm sick of the Shama chants, am I right? Shama, you're not that cool, all right, dudes? But also Yuri walked out to This Is How Legends Are Made, so I'd understand if you don't think he's a real BMF. Now that I'm thinking about that, what have I done? But Zhang, oh my God, you got to have him in there. And Yuri, oh God, he's 26. How awesome is that? And Yuri is a bad motherfucker as well. Zhang versus Yuri for the BMF belt at light heavyweight, if it was to jump to that division. I just think that's sick. But we'll move on to the middleweights. You let me know if there's a light heavyweight that I maybe missed. Bogdan Guskov, I think, makes a good case, because that guy is fucking scary as. But yeah, I like Zhang, and Yuri, he just seems like the right one. Come on. But yeah, and Pereira, I get it. But middleweight, when I was thinking, there's not a lot of bad motherfuckers at middleweight. Paulo's a bit of a whiny bitch. He is cool. Marvin, he had his days. Izzy, Nasruddin, Caio Borralho. No one's really sticking out. Fluffy, I thought, Fluffy versus Dolidze coming up. That is a bad motherfucker fight. Fluffy's a little bit flabby. But who I do really like is that guy there, Roman Dolidze. Because every time he's on Embedded, he's out in the forest in Vegas. Didn't he steal JP Base's wife and started smashing her? So and look how hairy he is. He's just a hairy beast. I just think of him as a real man's man, lumberjack, bad motherfucker. And if there was one at middleweight, I definitely think he's up there. Maybe Marco Tulio and Ateba Gautier, Bruno Ferreira. These are some sleeper picks. But what cannot be denied is the man at the top, and that is Dricus du Plessis. Do not lie that he is a bad motherfucker. Clowning everyone in the press conferences, and happy to fight Hamzat, wanting to fight Hamzat over Strickland. This guy finishing Rob, finishing Izzy. This guy's badass. making them all cry. You cannot have a BMF title fight at middleweight and not put Dricus du Plessis, in my opinion. So yeah, the rightful holder of the belt and the BMF belt to Delids is my pick. But let me know if there's any other sleepers at middleweight that I might have missed. A bit of a tough one. A lot of schmucks at that division, like Brendan Allen was who I could choose. Or Rainer Derrick is a cool guy, but like, you know, Bo Nickel, the fucking coward, Abbas, Shara, like losers, you know, losers. No, but just kidding. Just kidding. But welterweight. Now we're moving on to welterweight. And seriously, BMF belt, welterweight division, like personified. Who instantly jumps to mind? Maybe a little bit niche, but he should have jumped to your mind. It has to be, Andreas Gustafsson Bane. Oh my God. BMF. This guy is running in there like a retard, saying he's going full sped mode when he's fighting these guys. Like, I don't understand. If there was a BMF title fight up at welterweight, he'd have to be there. Someone I think deserves an honourable mention, and I would understand having him in there, is Gilbert Burns. Fighting Chimaev, Jack Della, Michael Morales. Like, the dude will not say no to anyone. He's fought fucking everyone. He's like a welterweight, bigger version of RDA. When, you know, you look at RDA's resume and it's like, damn, he's fought in everyone. Like, Gilbert Burns has fought killers on killers. He's always taken these new prospects. No, I just spat on my arm. Now, he's been getting KO'd, so it kind of felt like a little bit less. But someone else in the welterweight division that you cannot deny is a bad boy, BMF, and should be fighting Andreas and would be a banger. I think you know where this is going. If you truly think about it, you got to take your hat off to the champ. What Jack Della Maddalena is really, every time you, like, every new thing that comes out about this guy is like pretty cool. The nunchucks, calling Ilya a little boy the other day because the BMF belt is his. So rightfully he deserves to fight for it. He beat Bilal. He is the lineal BMF champ at the moment. So I couldn't make a BMF video without putting JDM, the true BMF, calling Ian Gary's son a loser. Wait, that's not what happened, but you know what? You know, calling Ian Gary out, barely says a peep, and the way his fight style, oh my God. You know, JDM's a BMF, but there's a couple others at welterweight. Even Islam Dulatov, it's pretty cool how he's a model and then knocking people out. Like, that's pretty BMF stuff. But you could say a little bit too much of a pretty boy for it. I understand. But we'll move on. Let me know any other of your welterweight picks. There's a couple BMFs up at welterweight. Even D-Rod. No. But Randy Brown, I like him as well. You know, there's some others you could be choosing. I definitely think Gilbert Burns is a good pick. Oh, well, I usually do a little build-up reveal, but when it comes to featherweight, how could you not have Diego Lopez? The dude's a fucking savage. Walking down Volk with his hands down in round 5 as Volk's walking away. Stepping in on short notice. Dan Ige on 165. I'll take another fight the next week. The walk-off arm triangle. Like, this dude is just, yeah. You can't have a BMF fight. And I also think him and Gene Silva coming up, like, that makes sense. That makes sense as a BMF title fight. I get Volk being in there, Steve Garcia. There's some bad boys at featherweight. And I was like, who should he fight for the BMF belt? And then I thought back to this story that I know of another featherweight on the roster. And I just thought, how can I not have him there? And that would be when a drunk UFC prospect, Arnold Allen, beat up 6 women in a club filled with Oompa Loompas. What the fuck? Drunk Arnold Allen was swinging windmill punches and assaulted 6 women in his past. So yeah, you're going in, Arnold Allen, and you'll be taking on Diego Lopez for my BMF belt in my fantasy world. What a fucking bad motherfucker he is. Just punching women out at a club. I take my hat off to you, sir. I take my hat off. Arnold Allen, Christmas brawl in his past. Arnold Allen intoxicated when he jumped in to protect his girlfriend who was in altercation with another woman. All right, so he was being a hero. And then he began throwing windmill punches and beat up the venue owner and 6 women. And 6 women in total. Wow, that is a lot of women in here. John Jones would be jealous of your numbers, Arnold, and you will be fighting for the BMF belt. What a bad man. Just fucking knocking women out at the club. I love that shit. All right, shout out Almighty Allen. And we'll be moving on to the Bantamweight division. Who instantly pops to mind when you say BMF? Bantamweight. Maybe Piotian, I definitely get that. You know, he's kind of fallen off. I think he lost the right to fight for the BMF belt when he let out that little screech he did at the weigh-ins, but how can you not have Vinicius Oliveira running in with his fucking hands down, not giving a care in the world? Like, seriously, this guy's a BMF. And I wanted to have a little sleeper niche pick because Bird actually had Vinicius Oliveira versus Piotian, and I was like, that's a good pick. Bird had some good picks. Some of mine are different, most of them. Andreas JDM he had. What could I do? But Vinicius Oliveira versus who I think is a real BMF on the come up right now. It's Malcolm Wellmaker. Malcolm Wellmaker, 10-0, sleeping cunts. Just fucking killing them in the first round. I love this guy, Malcolm. And I think he is a BMF, like real hood savage from Augusta, Georgia. And I've been liking what I've been seeing out of this guy. And I reckon he's a bad motherfucker. But there's a lot at featherweight bantamweight that you could do. Even Marab, but like, no, Cheeto, but yeah, he's getting bitched too much. Piodiana, I do like that one. Let me know some bantamweights. And last but not least, Joshua Van in the flyweight division. Now he just fought Roy Val, so that might as well have been the BMF title fight there. Bang, Joshua Van won it. So who's Josh going to defend his flyweight BMF belt against? And there's some good cases in here. Ramazan Temirov I wanted to put in, like an Andre Lima. Even Jose Ochoa is like a bad boy as well. Manel Cap, you obviously couldn't pull it out all the time. Kaiser bitch. But then I was really looking far and wide, and I was like, all right, there's a lot of good picks. And then I looked at the top, and I was like, it'd be rude not to. It would honestly be rude if I'm giving props to DDP and JDM to not put the man himself, and that is Pantoja. He is a BMF. And I cannot deny it. And we'll be watching this one go down later this year, hopefully on the same card as JDM at UFC 322, where we'll iron out who is the BMF. Because I think Van just beat Roy Val for it, because Roy Val taking Van on short notice. He's a BMF, but Van beat him for the belt. And Pantoja's a bad motherfucker, just choking out and lapping everyone in the division. You know, dude's the beast, runs forward recklessly like Vinicius Oliveira does. That's the same reason I put him in there. So I've got to put Pantoja, and that's it. Just a bunch of BMS for you guys to look out. Fun idea. Thanks for Bert for having it, and thanks for Arnold Allen for having this sick ass story that I just think is absolutely hilarious. When the drunk UFC prospect Arnold Allen beat up 6 women in a club filled with Oompa Loompas, like, what kind of fantasy? I know I said we're living in a fantasy world, but what the fuck? What kind of fantasy world is this where Arnold Allen is just sleeping bitches in front of Oompa Loompas? This is amazing. What a great story that is. And I think I'll leave it there. What did you think of the video? Do you like it? And cool thumbnail too, I thought as well. And yeah, see you later. And hello, mum.